Hi, this is Bethany Gagné, founder of Numinous, the organization that sponsors the Global Peaceful Cities Project. And if you're on this list, you are part of the millions of people right now who are starting to understand that our intentions influence what we experience in our daily lives. Right? So you're starting to get that maybe what you carry in your mind actually has something to do with what you draw into your world. And my intention today for this presentation is, if you're already living that lifestyle, I'm hoping to give you one or two fresh perspectives on all of that. And then if you're new to this work, to explain to you a little bit about how through intention and manifesting, a lot of it has to do with our state of being. You know, we can't really do it so much with our thoughts. They're very flimsy, they're very fickle. But when we really train in our state of being, then we recognize that's when we're really understanding how our state of consciousness at every moment will determine what we experience. So to stay with us for a little bit, in the end, I'm going to be inviting you to become an intentional coherence athlete, which we'll talk more about that, but we'll talk about this intentional coherence lifestyle. And I often say it's a method for living an empowered life in real life. An empowered life through real life. You see, life can get pretty brutal. Have you noticed, right? So life is constantly challenging us, constantly kind of destabilizing us if we allow it. But this idea of being able to hold your center no matter what's coming at you, and to be able to hold a state of consciousness where you can be consistently manifesting in the positive. You see, we're always manifesting. It's just, are we manifesting towards something that's more desirable or something that's less desirable, right? And so by training in intentional coherence lifestyle, we're actually training to be able to stay expanded and open as we travel through the inevitable challenges of daily life. And, you know, I feel like this is so important because, you know, in all of the spiritual teachings, you know, because I run the Global Peaceful Cities Project and because I've been doing this work for 25 years, I always feel as though it's kind of my responsibility to find out who's doing what in the field of intention and who's getting the best results and who's, you know, what's their angle, what are they saying? And I have to tell you, after 25 years, I'm still pretty much doing the same intentional deep dive work. And I'll tell you, I've studied with some of the best. And each time I go and I study with each of those people, they round out my understanding of why I do what I do. But really, it's been the same thing for many, many years. And I'll tell you that no matter what spiritual teacher you're going to, no matter whatever you're reading, essentially all of the ones that I've seen, and I've seen a ton, because I also have a ton of speakers come speak through Numinous, I've been exposed to a lot of information. And I will tell you that really all spiritual teachings will boil down to two things. One, are we going to open or close our hearts, right? Are we going to stay open in the face of challenge, or are we going to close? At the same idea is, are we going to contract our field, or are we going to expand our energy field in the face of challenge, including and especially in conflict? Okay, so in conflict, it's this idea of falling up, falling out, this idea of like, yeah, life is hitting me between the eyes right now, and it's challenging me to expand whether or not I want to or not, right? And I will tell you that the reason why I've come to this work and have been so steadfast in this work over time is I had to use these skills in my late 20s. Basically, I was a musician, and the ligaments in my joints started to stretch apart, and I was losing dexterity in my hands, and my legs my hips were dislocating as well. So I spent a lot of my 20s, when a lot of other people were getting married and having their 2.5 kids, I spent a lot of time in my 20s. I noticed that wherever I focused my mind and the body, I'd get a different result. And over time, I started to realize that this idea of expansion was so key to healing and to basically meeting the demands of life, even though I had a real disability at the time. But it was this kind of consistent knowing that deep down, I just always felt as though we were never meant to feel disempowered. And I wasn't meant to live on this earth feeling like a handicapped puppy or something. And so what I really came to over time is that this idea of a constant expansion, constant opening, is really how we can make all of this work sail so much easier. And when we learn to embrace that, we can move forward in life much faster. So in the intentional coherence lifestyle, we are integrating 3 powerful skills. Think of this as the trifecta of law of attraction. Number 1, heart-brain coherence. 2, intention, which I would also refer that as a discipline of mind. And then 3, energy field expansion work. And by using deep dive meditations, we're able to kind of go in and do all 3 of these things at once to be able to move ourselves into a state of being that can manifest more in the positive. Now, so what is an intentional coherence athlete? An intentional coherence athlete is someone who trains like an athlete to move their body into a more powerful physiological state, and have the biofeedback and energetic skills to sustain that state. So think about athletes, right? They get up in the morning, they go to the gym, they run, they lift weights, they stretch, they build their endurance, right? So athletes basically are constantly training or conditioning the body to be better at their sport. And even if they have a bad practice or something like that, they get up the next day and they do it again, right? And, you know, I really can identify with that, not only because I've done a lot of training like that, physical training, but, you know, my orientation to all of this, I was a musician, and it was this idea that you had to constantly practice, practice, practice. And it had to be in your body, right? So you, and in music school, because I was studying at the college level, music, and in music school, like you have to have all these things in your fingers, right? Your fingers have to hold the music, right? So whether it's like you're playing the piano or the guitar, or you're conducting and you're leading, those types of things, or you're doing solfege and keeping songs in your voice, basically, you know, like holding lyrics, or what do I want to say, melodies in your voice. All of it was physical demonstration. Like you know, you couldn't fluff anything, right? It had to be in your body. And if it wasn't in your body, then you didn't know it, right? So that's the way this intentional lifestyle is like, if you're not feeling it here, you're going to get very hit or miss of results. And after 25 years in biofeedback, I often say that we are numb below the ears. We have no idea what's going on in our body, and we have no idea why we're getting the results we do. I'll give you one quick example, high blood pressure. So many people are experiencing high blood pressure, and really it's at the early stages, it can be so reversed easily through proper breathing, right? So high blood pressure and maladaptive breathing go hand in hand. And I've helped many, many people with mild or moderate blood pressure come off their medication, and people who've had very severe high blood pressure, I mean, dangerous levels. When I look at their breathing patterns, it's reverse. And I've definitely taught them how to basically not increase their medication, and some of them have lessened it, right? So anyway, so we don't know what's going on in the body, and yet the body carries all of this information. And so the body is basically could be used as a biofeedback instrument to let you know what is going on in your mind. And when we ignore the body, when we're trying to manifest, it's kind of like leaving a whole bunch of money on the table, right? There's this whole clue into what's really going on for us below our ears, but we have to develop the awareness to be able to maintain, to use that information to manifest, okay? So the intentional, again, the intentional coherence athlete course is about using the body as a biofeedback instrument of consciousness and grace. Now, I use grace in a very technical way, okay? So I'm going to use this one term. I wish this video I could move that, but anyway, so we're going to use this one term, and I'm going to borrow a term from Taoism to refer to this word as grace, okay? In Taoism, there's this concept of wu wei, and it's this idea of acting effort. Oh, and so Ted Slingerland I've been getting a kick out of watching this because he's a professor of Asian studies, and he's considered an expert in this Taoist concept of Wu Wei. And I've been watching him getting more and more well known for him trying to explain to us Westerners this concept of Wu Wei. And this is his definition, okay? Acting effortlessly and spontaneously in harmony with a normative standard, and thereby acquiring an almost magical efficaciousness in moving through the world and attracting people to oneself, right? Doesn't that sound a little bit about this law of attraction hype that's going on right now, right? All of this intentional, all of this whatever. Isn't that interesting that the Taoists knew about this 2,500 years ago? And the Taoists weren't the only ones. I've seen glimpses of this in other traditions. So, but this idea that the Taoist master would be so balanced with the infinite field around them and deep within themselves that they had this delicate balance happening. And I often say it's a balance where you are both humbled and you are both exalted, right? As this idea that you are humbled, you say somewhat empty because you are always remaining teachable, but then you know and you feel the power of when you are called to step in and when you are called to follow through. And so it's really this beautiful dance of holding this state of consciousness with the infinite around you. Now, another book that talks a little bit about this is the Course in Miracles, and the word that the Course in Miracles use for Wu Wei, or that same state, is grace. And again, the Course tells us that grace is our natural state, and when we're not living from grace, something's gone terribly wrong. And what's usually terribly wrong is that we're a little bit too filled up with our stuff. We're too filled up with our own mind. We're too filled up with our own baggage and all that kind of stuff. That's exactly usually what's going on. So, and so basically the Course in Miracles saying that this grace is our birthright and we just need to train to be able to maintain it. Understand that it also says that grace is beyond learning, right? So I can't teach you grace. I can only facilitate it. And I will tell you that after 25 years of priming all sorts of people's minds for all sorts of levels of healing and consciousness and everything from little infants to seniors to law students to police, I will tell you that this one of the things I'm really, really good at in this world is to be able to prime people's mind, to be able to, I often say, tenderize people to the infinite so that they can have their own magic happen, right? So another concept the Course in Miracles says is that grace happens when our lessons of forgiveness are complete. So essentially, if you're kind of complaining about the past and you're worrying about the future all the time, then you don't have enough juice or energy in the present moment to finance your life and to make your life pop with grace. Okay, that's just the way it is. And so again, these are some of the concepts of what's it like, where do you need to be, what's the state of being to consistently produce the results you want. And in the end, the Course tells us that the goal is for all of us, well, it's lessons all point to exquisite love, because we realize when we let go of that baggage, we have been held all along, and that there's this gorgeous dance. And I would have read that years ago going, exquisite love, oh, that's sweet, oh, that's a goal. But now, I'll go into these meditative states and, you get out of meditation and you're like, you know what, I just want to stay. I want to be able to walk in this love. I want to walk in this presence. I want to be able to move through this world in this exquisite love. And it's not a heady thing. It's literally a state of consciousness, okay? So, so we talk about that in the Intentional Coherence Athlete class. So what we do in that is there's 3 aspects of it. And the first one is coherence. And coherence is essentially learning how to take your mind and anchor it down into the heart and breathe in a way that syncs up your heart rate and breathing, and also to reach for restorative emotions. I've been talking about that in the MailChimps. And so, so you can go to heartmath.org, heartmath.com. They're amazing. They're the world's leaders in heart-brain coherence. But let me just tell you a little bit about why this whole coherence thing is a good thing. I want you to know that there is a sweet spot within you, and it's called coherence. And think about this tennis racket here, right? And the tennis rackets, there's always a sweet spot that when you hit the ball of a tennis racket, you hit the tennis racket and you hit the ball into the sweet spot of the tennis racket, you will find there's this one space that when it hits it, the ball just pings and it sails, right? It just goes. And it feels so good when you hit the ball at the sweet spot, okay? And you know it's the sweet spot because you can feel that it's the sweet spot, okay? That's the way coherence is inside of you. And what people need to know, and my mission of the Global Peaceful Cities Project is to get some basic information out to everyone. And what I want everyone to know, everyone, so tell anyone you can this, is that there is a sweet spot inside of you. It doesn't matter where you've been or what has happened or what kind of agony you've been through. there's a way to get underneath the noise of the surface of the mind and find that gorgeousness within. Okay, it's the kind of thing that when you find it, you know it was there all along, right? It's kind of like you're holding a buoy underneath the water and then it comes up with so much force. You're like, wow, that was there the entire time, right? That's coherence. And it takes some training a little bit to get there, but it's very easily accessed. In fact, right here, just to show you what coherence is it's the fact the hallmark of coherence is something called heart rate variability, which basically means that the time between heartbeats is variable. So if you see that each of those spikes is a heartbeat, and then the time between those actually change over time, and that's a variable heart rate, right? So that's actually a resilient heart. That's a heart that is flexible. It's poised between the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems, also the autonomic and somatic branches. It's like kind of like the perfect place to be. It's resilience. It's really resilience in the body, right? So either way, you can bob and weave with the world, and your heart is able to move. We talk a lot about this because when life happens, we put our heart into lockdown, which puts more of a depressive signal out to the rest of the body. And that's why heart disease and depression go hand in hand. So we train a lot at the Peace Project of loosening our hearts, right? Allowing our hearts to be light, light, light. As I always say, a happy heart dances. The research at the Institute of HeartMath tells us that when we're coherent, we make better decisions, we perform more optimally, and we have greater clarity. Now, don't just gloss over that, because think about that. Imagine having beautiful clarity. Clarity of mind is so important. And it's the kind of clarity that you just make better decisions without white knuckling it. It's not like you're struggling to make the right decision. You just do the right decision because you have the clarity of why that's important, right? It's not hard. And, they've shown that people who struggle with substance abuse have less coherence, right? So if you're struggling with a substance, right, getting coherent, you're able to get that juice in your system back so you can make better decisions. And for me, this is not research-based, but my experience, if I do some coherence training and then I go wash the dishes, I am happy for no good reason. Nothing in my outside world has changed, but I'm singing to my puppy and just thinking more lighthearted thoughts. And I train to be able to maintain that. All right, so coherence, again, I would say it means happiness for no good reason. And there's research that shows that the more coherent we are, the more our intentions will kind of sail and manifest in the positive, which is why Dr. Joe Dispenza and all of his amazing work will have people really land in the heart for a while and stretch it open before they start doing their intentional work. Intention is basically a discipline of mind, of being able to hold our mind still. And unfortunately now with the world being so highly distractible, people are saying, yeah, I want to create with intention in my life. And yet they literally have no discipline of mind. And I'm not saying that at all in any kind of judgmental way. It's just what happens in this world is we're constantly getting our attention plucked out of our body. I mean, I always say you can't even stand in line at a bank right now without having a screen input information into your nervous system, whether you want it or not, right? And you've got to metabolize that information. So understand that, our mind, our spirits are like financing all this stuff around us. And then we say, oh, we want to create with intention. Well, you got to rein yourself back in before you do that. So we do a lot of this in the, so again, I'm just leaving that thought out for you if you've been working with intention for a while. Course in Miracles tells us there are no idle thoughts. Edgar Cayce said thought is builder, those types of things. It's the idea that our general consciousness is, like what the level of consciousness we're at right now is like decent, but the idea that an intentional mind is more focused, right? So the general common example that people give is the fact that, think about the light in the room right now. It's lighting up this entire room. But if you were to take all those light waves and line them up, it would become a laser that would become strong enough to cut tissue. See the difference, right? So we've got to start understanding the quality of our mind, the granularity of it. And from there, again, that clarity, then you're clear to manifest. And we'll talk about how important it is to have a beautiful, clean heart, as clean as possible when we manifest. I'd like to give this one research study because it really demonstrates, it's been around forever, but it's one of my favorites because it uses biofeedback instrumentation, which basically measure things from the body and feeds it back. And it demonstrates that literally thoughts are palpable, okay? So there were 31 married couples. They were divided, there were two groups. One of the spouses had cancer. And what they did was they divided the spouses into two electromagnetically shielded rooms. And so there was one spouse in the room, and if it was the one, it was a couple with cancer, that this is the one where the person with cancer would go. He or she would be in the room. They would be hooked up to all this biofeedback instrumentation, measuring changes in the body. And then there was also a camera on them. Then there was the other spouse in the other room, electromagnetically shielded room, and that spouse would send, would be looking at a screen. And when they saw a picture of their spouse on the screen, they were instructed to send loving intentions to their spouse in the other room at that moment, like just for that period of time. And what they found was really amazing, and it demonstrates that thoughts truly are, as Lynn McTaggart says, thoughts are things that influence things, okay? That sending intention creates a palpable, measurable result. And it synchronized that when the sender was sending the loving intentions, that there was this measurable change in the skin conductance, heart rate, and blood flow and respiration of the spouse in the other room. So the spouse in the other room is just sitting there passively, but again, hooked up to these biofeedback instruments, and so measuring changes in the body while the person's sending loving intentions, okay? So know that, that intentions are real. You know, when you really get that, your locus of consciousness, like right now, this minute, is interacting with the infinite field, then you start to become much more discerning on that which you focus on, okay? And again, I always find this last thing so poignant, and that is that the most prolonged pattern occurred among the cancer patients whose partners had been trained in compassionate intention. So doesn't that kind of make sense? And I find it so poignant that, of course, you know, the spouses who knew that their spouse was struggling with cancer, they just lingered a little bit longer sending loving intention. And I just highlight that because, you know, like, let's not wait for people to get sick to let our love linger on them. You know, like, there are times that I just stop and I blast my kids with beauty and grace and love. And I know that it's very real phenomenon. And, you know, like, let's not just wait, like, let's every day, you know, blast our family with love and light, and see the beauty that can happen that way as well. So the other thing that we do in the coursework is we do energy. We're always expanding our energy fields, and we're teaching people about the energy field. Now, I absolutely guarantee you that I would not have stayed with the Global Peaceful Cities Project if I did not have this one skill. The idea that, and it's a skill that I know is teachable and everyone can learn. And it is this idea, again, going back to, in any difficult situation, are you going to contract or expand? And what does that mean? And how does your field feel? And where, you know, where is your field concave? You know, this is a picture of the toroidal field of the heart, which is a big kind of substantial part of the field. And the field is a lot to know, but I don't teach it in any traditional ways, right? Because, you know, understand that the field is so dense. You've got literally kind of the four directions. You've got above and below, right? And then in each of those, there are different kind of layers of, say, density, so to speak, which kind of affiliated with different dimensions. And I could go on and on and on. And, you know, to me, that's all great. I don't even know. Literally, I've studied a lot of that. Don't even know who or what I believe. I just know what I know, if you know what I mean, to quote Edie Brickell. And you know what you know if you know what you mean. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I will direct you to be able to pick up what you need in your field. Because your energy field is always giving you information. It's just a matter of tuning our filters so that we can get the information. And although we don't, and you don't have to know all the, you know, levels of the field, and you know, you don't. You just need to know what is it your field wants you to know as far as where you need to work. And you follow your curiosity, because your curiosity is always going to take you where you need to go. So in the Peace Project, or these classes, what we do is we actually are always working on expanding our field, and people are really getting to know the landscape of their own energy field and where they need to work. And it's been so beautiful to watch. I've been, again, doing this work for 25 years. studying the best of the best, and getting very, very steeped in this work. And it's just been a real blessing for me to be able to share the deep work that, you can only share when people have got some basics down, right? So it's been really amazing for me to watch people open to their field and feel so empowered. Because when you start to get this, that your energy has a lot to do with your intentioning, it's kind of like if you're trying to think from the surface of the mind a thought and you don't add energy behind it, it doesn't go very far. So it's been fun to watch. So in order to become an athlete, you basically do the daily meditations, but you're always gaining information about your mental and energetic landscape in your heart. And the idea is that it's a lifestyle of constant renovation, right? Nothing is off limits. So every day I have to kind of look at my thought system and say, Bethany, what is not serving me today? What do I need to toss? And what do I need to, I don't even want to say embrace, but what do I need to allow, I should say? And anything is ready to go, right? Because as we leave this world, we're going to let go of it all anyways. I remind people of that all the time. At your last breath, that's the whole thing. You're just going to let go of this whole world. So why don't we just let go of it now and allow ourselves to enjoy? Because you also realize that even good feelings can be constrictive. So anyway, so this idea of being willing to just let go. Even the things you want, you let them go, right? So, and we talk a lot about that, what that means. So becoming an intentional coherence athlete is cultivating the endurance to expand in the face of challenge while sustaining a state of inner dignity and beauty. That's a loaded sentence for me because I was raised with a single mom who had a lot of struggle and a lot of challenges. And as a little more empathic girl, I felt a lot of it. And, the idea that what would happen is every now and then she would go to a retreat, because she gained her strength from the church. She gained her strength from God and to endure the struggles that she was going through. And every now and then she would go to a retreat. And I would notice as a little girl what would happen when she came home from the retreat. She'd come home, she'd be a little lighter, she'd be a little gigglier. She'd actually almost even show us affection. And, she was different. And I would notice that, right? And then I would notice her close back up over time. And I would see this happen over and over again a lot in my life, in my childhood, right? So I would also watch the same thing happen when people go to these amazing workshops, right? You go to whatever it is, whoever your great teacher is that you just love, and you come back and you're just like so wowed by the experience. And then because we don't have the skills to keep our own field expanded without that group, without that amazing inspiration from that teacher, we can fall back into ourselves. We can contract, right? And so becoming an intentional coherence athlete is to be able to have the internal biofeedback and energetic skills to maintain your inner dignity and beauty, even though you're in the grind of everyday life, which is why I say it's about living an empowered life in real life. Okay. And because these meditations that I do are so directed and skilled, you don't need a lot of meditation to get big benefits. Pretty much what I've done in this course is I've taken all the best of the best concepts and ideas regarding intentional research and my 25 years of living by intention to bring it into like the best of the best. I have a general curriculum, but I always customize it. And these are basic intentional fundamentals that we build on so that, now with the advanced athletes, I'm really, because these fundamentals are established, we get to go real deep and real expanded. I love it. I love working with them. Anyways, so these are intentional fundamentals. They're energetic and body-based. You know that you're doing it right because your energy has shifted, and you just need to train like an athlete to sustain these states. First one is, I'm going to run through these real fast so I don't take up too much time. Power of disciplined focus. Remember, our minds are undisciplined. Using the body as biofeedback instrument for manifesting with source, right? All this information is going on in the body. We're ignoring it all. We open that up. Falling in love with you at your most incredible. So important. It should be you at your most incredible should be your North Star. And we practice in that. Cleansing yourself into freedom. If your heart is not kind of cleansed, they're going to be contaminating your intentions. So that is one of the most favorite courses. Everybody loves it. or classes. Being confident you're manifesting in the positive. If you've ever tried to manifest something and you manifested the exact opposite and you say, oh, this stuff doesn't work. No, that was it working perfectly. It was just that you didn't know some basics. And after 25 years, I've made all the mistakes. So I'm really good at helping people laser through that and figure out what's going on. All right, stretching your heart open. Oh yeah, it's like it's like, you know, when you come out of a, say, massage or a float or something and you feel so released, right? That's the way your heart, and it can be infinitely released and stretched open. So we love that. Manifesting through a way, part 1 and part 2, because it's such an obscure concept. We have to kind of often work it from different angles. Honor thyself, code of conduct. I encourage you to do this starting right now today. Spend the next 30 days honoring yourself, not betraying yourself, not getting on your own case, and whatever choice you make, you stand by yourself as if you are your own best friend, and watch yourself pop in the next 30 days as far as your inner dignity and grace and beauty. Oh, and finally, awakening the courage within. And I think we're going to change that. It's really following through on the courage within, because once you've released a whole bunch of garbage, the ideas are right there, and it's really a matter of implementing them. And when the heart is really open, you become unstoppable. You don't even need motivation at that point. But the idea of really making sure next steps are moved through. Now, this is all the while we're working through all of that, we're also working with we're cultivating something called vitamin D. And I don't mean the kind that you can get from your doctor in a prescription and everybody's saying that everybody's malnourished in vitamin D. I've got a different vitamin D that we are incredibly malnourished with, and that is the vitamin D of delight. Okay. And the reason why I see this a lot is you'll see people, especially maybe after middle age, is their lives are good, they're okay, they're doing everything, they're taking care of their family, but they're feeling themselves kind of sinking and deadening at the same time. And when I say this to some people, it's really putting my finger right on a wound, right? A trigger. It's like deep down, they know they're missing something. They love their family, they love their life, they want to do it all, but they're feeling like they're getting suffocated at the same time, right? And what that is the heart getting shrouded. And so we train in opening the heart, and we train in delight. We train in opening the heart, and how I've learned that the most important thing for me in my life is for me to keep my heart as wide open as possible. And that means watching comedy. That means lightening it up in so many different ways. And if I see something gorgeous, then I stop and I look at it, right? And I let myself drink it in so that my energy field gets strengthened from the beauty. I love what this poet, Georgia Hurt, said: fall in love 3 times a day. Find ways to fall in love and allow yourself to be charmed, okay? Now, years ago, I was working with a very hardcore substance addict, and he was struggling to become coherent. And again, I'm highly skilled. And even with all of my skill to be able to do this, I couldn't get him nearly where I wanted to get him. And as I switched screens from the different screens in the M-Wave, the HeartMath M-Wave, and we flipped over to the games, and all of a sudden he sees a screen with all sorts of colors, and it just captured his attention, and his head kind of cocked to the side, and he just kind of went and he looked at it, and I saw that his coherence had flashed. And I said to him at that moment, I said, do you see how you just flashed in coherence? I said, we were struggling so hard before to let go, right? But looking at falling into delight, you actually moved into greater coherence, right? And so that's what we train, as far as we're training to keep our hearts as light as possible, like as light as a feather. And you're going to find it's actually, unfortunately, our hearts have gotten so bogged down that it's a difficult thing to there we go, good. It's a difficult thing to train in. It's unfortunately, so simple, it's difficult. So to help you with that right now, to help you become coherent, I want you to check in with your heart. I want you to check into the space in front of the heart, the space around the upper back. Feel how you are feeling wherever you are sitting. And I want you to take a look at this gorgeous baby. And his name is Micah. And allow yourself to be charmed. Allow yourself to move into greater coherence, and notice the resistance you may have to it. Really study yourself as seeing yourself holding back maybe at the gorgeousness of this experience. And try to go with it.
This one, Micah. This one.
All right. So take a moment and check into yourself and see, how do you feel different, right? Do you feel the beauty, right? You've just changed your state. And it's there the whole time. And it's just a matter of training. There's no magic here. It's just about can you find the space, can you hold it, and then how do you sustain it, right? And so that's why at the Peace Project we laugh a lot, because we're training. Our hearts are light, and we're pretty irreverent in a lot of ways. So I love this quote from Richard Rohr. He says, "If you find someone smiling over the age of 40, they are doing something right." And I noticed this with the Peace Project people when we go out to maybe restaurants or whatever. We're a little loud, we're a little boisterous, we're a little irreverent, and the jokes are, our running jokes are long, and, we're just full of life because we've been training and letting go of our stuff, letting go of our baggage. And, it's a fun group to be with, and we always laugh a lot. I want to take a moment and thank Lynn for her doing her Peace Project. And, I remember my in-laws raising eyes at me years ago when I told them I wanted to do Peace Projects, and no one really thought I would do it. And I started Numinous with the sole intention of creating the meditators to do this type of research. And once I saw Lynn was doing her Peace Projects, I was like, now's the time to organize. So thank you to Lynn for all of her pioneering work. So let me tell you a little bit about our Intentional Coherence Athlete Program if you're interested. It's starting March 11th, very, very soon. They're bi-weekly streamed live video courses. So what's going to happen is every 2 weeks we get online, and I drop in an intentional key. I teach you something to practice, and then I leave a lot of room for sharing so that people can share about what is it about in their life that they want to receive intentions for. And so we really get to know each other about our deepest longings, our deepest stuff, and what is it that we're wanting to embrace and move forward with. And so then what happens is after that meeting, I customize a meditation that really captures kind of like the wu wei of that night, or the space or the spirit of that evening. And then I create a meditation, and people will listen to that meditation every day for 2 weeks until the next class. And in that meditation, you, one, cultivate the intentional skill that I presented. And then you also use that skill to send intentions to your own life. And then after that, you use that skill to send intentions to somebody else as well. Now, this is, again, I put together this course with all of what I know, the best of intention, plus my own 25 years of, I say, street living intention on the street, right? So the idea is that, we're benefiting because we're opening up our hearts. We're becoming more coherent. We're, from that beautiful, open, cleansed heart, we send intentions to our own life, right? So our own life benefits. Then all of Lynn McTaggart's work with the Power of 8, where we are taking ourselves off the throne of our own thinking and putting someone else up there. And there's so many benefits to that. For us to not be the center point of our own thinking all the time is so powerful. So then we get to blast this person with all this love and light, which creates this somewhat of a vacuum in our own field to allow more love and light to come into our own field as well. And Lynn McTaggart's research has demonstrated that when we send intentions to others, we often benefit ourselves. I've seen that in the Peace Project over the years. I remember one of our volunteers saying to me, Bethany, for every Peace Project I've participated in, I've received a different gift. Right? And there's no accident. I mean, Lynn's research says why that occurs, right? So you are sending these beautiful intentions, and then as you're sending intentions to someone else, you're also kind of understanding your whole place in this process and who you are to the universe, and it's just gorgeousness. And now another benefit to that is that there are days that you will be on the list and you will be receiving the intentions for that day. And it's kind of funny because just yesterday I had finished this. I don't know if I can find it real quick. Somebody sent me, the athletes will tell me something like they know the day that they're getting their intention, they're receiving intentions. And I remember one time Anne said something like, I didn't look at the list today, but I know today's my day to receive. And sure enough, she went home and she was on the list. And just yesterday I finished my day, and this woman who's been struggling with some health issues, she said, I'm running today. It's all the good juju. And juju means in this class is all the good juice that we get from the other athletes. And so she's basically saying, hey, today's my day to receive, and I'm running around at work, and she has a health issue. So for her, that was good, right? So I wrote her awesome, and she wrote, yes, it is, right? So you benefit from receiving the good juju, to use our words. And not only that, you're receiving good intentions from people who are skilled. Now that's huge. I can't even go into that. Right there is a whole talk, right? But the research has shown that when you train an intention, you get better at it. So that's one benefit. Two, you're receiving intentions from people who are training at cleansing their heart at the same time. And you'll see that if your heart isn't cleansed, they can contaminate intentions. So you are getting some of the best intentions sent at you from highly trained hearts. Beautiful. The cost of this program is $99 a month for 4 months. You're also going to meet some of your best friends that you're going to share some of your deepest stuff with. And I remember one time, two of the guys couldn't make it to the class, and one of them said to me, you know, Frank and I couldn't make it to the class, and we were pained that we couldn't be there. That's how much of the closeness that we end up cultivating. It's just beautiful. If you'd like to start a hub in your home, I'm willing to help support you with that. We can provide you with some technical assistance. Now, this is really important because there's someone in Australia who's kind of way off the time zones, and the sharing is so important. So if you know anyone in that time zone, we would love to I'd be willing to do a separate class for people in that time zone to so that they can really share and bond with each other. It's super important. So I'd love to have her do that. So again, start now. Please contact us soon, because it's a week from Monday, and I'm organizing groups and everything. So one is how to participate. Well, you go to peacefulcities.org, peacefulcities.org, scroll down to this part where it says become an intentional athlete. Click here where it says read more, and you'll be taken to a sign up page. So please do that as soon as possible if you're interested. Yes, classes are recorded, so if you miss a class, you can be part of the recording. And yes, we will still receive your intentions so that you are still on the list. Even if you can't make it, you can watch the recording. What's the other question that people ask? Yeah, all right. So, finally, I just want to close here with this quote from Carl Jung. You know, Carl Jung knew about what they call the numinous, and that's why we know Carl Jung's work, because he was so powerful at studying the numinous in our lives. And that's what I feel like I do, is I teach people about the gorgeousness of living with the infinite love that's around them, and to permeate, you recognize that your body is permeated in love at all moments. So what Carl Jung does, or what he says here, I just love this quote because it's everything that the Intentional Coherence Athlete Class is about. And he says, but the fact is that the approach to the numinous is the real therapy. And as much you attain the numinous experiences, you are released from the curse of pathology. So my job is just to be a tenderizer so that you can experience the numinous in your own lives. That's earlier when I was talking about my job is to facilitate the experience. You've got to actually do the work, but my job is to kind of create the fertile ground so that you can plant the seeds of living a life anchored and steeped and nourished by the numinous. right? And it's just gorgeous. I said to the athletes recently, are you getting it? Like the numinous is palpable and real. And they're like, yes, yes, we get it now. Like there's this infinite love is not a heady thing up here. It's actually a strength, a power. It is the definition of resilience as far as I'm concerned. And as Carl Jung said, it's the real therapy. And just by touching the numinous, we are healed. Okay. So my highest hope for you is that you're going to gain a highly functional working relationship with the divine or the infinite love, whatever you want to call it. I'm not, no attachment there. Learn that you are being held by the loving intelligence that create worlds. My hope for you is you get out of the way so that you can feel the infinite's elegant hand work more effectively in your life, and that I can tenderize you to the infinite love that's around you right now. So please come play with us. You'll see in the Peace Project, if you want to, if you don't become an athlete, we would love for you to participate in the Global Peaceful Cities Project. Well, you'll learn some basics about coherence and all of that. And you can, we're going to be monitoring people's happiness levels in the beginning of the week compared to the end of the week. We'd love for you to participate from August 3rd through 9th, 2019, from wherever you are on the globe. We'll be sending you more information that we are going to be sending some peaceful intentions to a community that was rocked with some violence last year, and we would love to support and be our brother's keeper and send loving, peaceful intentions so that they can have a different experience this summer. And then, of course, we work with State University of Albany of New York professor Dr. Corinne Reinhold, who will look at the crime statistics and see just how much of an impact our peaceful intentions have made. Thank you all so much for your time. I know I threw a lot of information here, but that's why I sent you the recording. You can go back and pick it up again, and you'll gain a deeper knowledge just from going through one more time, at least. All right, thank you so much. I'd love to hear from you a week from March 11th. Come play with us. All right, have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.